Imagine that you're a teacher of history, and your lessons on 20th century Europe are boycotted, heckled, or otherwise disrupted by well-organized, well-financed, and politically muscular groups of Holocaust deniers. Holocaust deniers really exist. They are vocal, superficially plausible, and practiced at seeming learned. They include at least one bishop of the Roman Catholic Church. Imagine that, as a teacher of European history, you're continually faced with hostile demands to teach the controversy and to give equal time to the alternative theory that the Holocaust never happened, but was invented by a bunch of Zionists. The situation facing many science teachers today is not unlike this. When they attempt to explain the central and guiding principle of biology, when they honestly place the living world in its historical context, which means evolution, when they explore and explain the very nature of life itself, they are pressurized and obstructed, harassed and bullied, even threatened with loss of their job. At very least, their time is wasted at every turn. They are likely to receive threatening letters from parents and have to endure the sarcastic expressions and tightly folded arms of brainwashed children. They're supplied with state-approved textbooks that have had the word evolution systematically removed, or altered to read change over time. We used to be tempted to laugh this kind of thing off as a peculiarly American phenomenon. But teachers in Britain and Europe now face the same problems, partly because of American influence, but more significantly because of the growing Islamic presence in the classroom. This of itself might not have presented a major problem, but it has been accompanied by an official commitment to multiculturalism and the terror of being thought racist. And as a result, it's become almost impossible for teachers to educate pupils in anything that contradicts Islamic dogma. The day before I wrote this lecture, the London Sunday Times reported that some Muslim biology students in England are boycotting lectures about evolution because they conflict with their creationist beliefs, and that even some trainee doctors on one of Britain's most prestigious medical courses are refusing to learn about evolution. This is a quote from the article. Inayat Bangla, founder of Muslim for UK and formerly a senior figure at the Muslim Council of Britain, blamed the growth of creationist belief among Muslims partly on the campaign of Adnan for the name Harold Yahya. Yahya began his work after studying the success of Christian creationists in America. He links Darwinism to Nazism, and his books include The Skull That Demolished Darwin, which proclaims the burial of Darwinism as Europe awakens. Speakers sent by Yahya regularly tour Britain, and earlier this year spoke in London, Manchester, Leeds, Dundee, and Glasgow. They spoke at University College London in 2008. Bundlawala said he has glossy books and videos which are heavily promoted by Islamic bookshops and on Islamic TV channels, where they are aired many hours a day. He added, "It is unfortunate that some Muslim students, when it comes to the opportunity to learn about evolution, boycott the lessons without even listening or walk out of classes. This goes against the express words of the Quran, which are to read, open your mind, and use your critical faculties." Many Christian thinkers have learned to interpret the Bible in a way which does not in any way negate the teaching of science. It is important Muslim thinkers perform the same service. That's the end of the quote from Bundlawala. It is indeed true that senior Christian churchmen and theologians accept evolution, and in many cases actively support scientists in this respect. The Archbishop of Canterbury, head of the Anglican Church, has no problem with evolution, nor does the Pope, although he does agonize a little over the precise point in evolutionary history. The soul is injected into the body. Nor do educated priests and professors of theology. Bishops and theologians who've taken the trouble to consider the evidence for evolution have given up the fight against it. They may think God started the process off, and perhaps cases, happily in others, most serious Christian churchmen accept the evidence for evolution. But sadly, it does not follow that their Christian congregations see things the same way. The evidence from opinion polls shows that more than 40% of Americans deny that humans evolved from other animals and think that we, by implication all life, were created by God within the last 10,000 years. The figure for Turkey is even worse. The figure is not quite so high in Britain, but it is still worryingly high. It seems appropriate to use the name history deniers for those people who deny evolution. People who believe the world's age is measured in thousands of years rather than thousands of millions of years, which we believe humans walked with dinosaurs. Evolution is a fact. Beyond reasonable doubt, beyond serious doubt, beyond sane, informed, intelligent doubt, beyond doubt, evolution is a fact. The evidence for evolution is at least as strong as the evidence for the Holocaust, even allowing for the fact that we have eyewitnesses to the Holocaust. It is the plain truth that we are cousins of chimpanzees, slightly more distant cousins of monkeys, more distant cousins still of camels and donkeys, yet more distant cousins of bananas and cabbages. Continue the list as long as desired. That didn't have to be true. It is not self-evidently or intuitively true. And there was a time when most people, even educated people, thought it wasn't true. Didn't have to be true, but it is. We know this because there is a huge amount of evidence for it. Evolution is a fact. Obviously, the vast majority of evolutionary change is invisible to direct eyewitness observation. Most of it happened before we were born, and in any case it is usually too slow to be seen during an individual's lifetime. The same is true of the relentless pulling apart of Africa and South America, which occurs too slowly for us to notice. With evolution, as with continental drift, inference after the event is all that is available to us, for the obvious reason that we don't exist until after the event. But do not for 1 nanosecond underestimate the power of such inference. The slow drifting apart of South America and Africa is now an established fact in the ordinary language sense of fact. And so is our common ancestry with porcupines and pomegranates. We're like detectives who come on the scene after a crime has been committed. The murderer's actions have vanished into the past. The detective has no hope of witnessing the actual crime with his own eyes. In any case, numerous experiments have shown that it is not always safe to trust our own eyes. What the detective does have is traces that remain, and there's a great deal to trust there. There are footprints, fingerprints, and nowadays DNA fingerprints too, bloodstains, letters, diaries. The world is the way the world should be, with this and this history, but not that and that history, led up to the present. Creationists love the fossil record, because they have been taught by each other to repeat over and over the mantra that it is full of gaps. Show me your intermediates. They imagine that these gaps are an embarrassment to evolutionists. Actually, we're lucky to have any fossils at all, let alone the massive numbers that we now do have to document evolutionary history. Large numbers which, by any standards, constitute beautiful intermediates. As I emphasized in my book, The Greatest Show on Earth, we don't need fossils in order to demonstrate that evolution is a fact. The evidence for evolution would be entirely secure, even if not a single corpse had ever fossilized. Evidence from the comparative study of modern species and their geographical distribution, for example. It's a bonus that we do actually have large numbers of fossils, and more are discovered every day. The fossil evidence for evolution in many major animal groups is wonderfully strong. Nevertheless, there are of course gaps, and creationists love them obsessively. But since the case for evolution is watertight without them, it is paradoxical to use gaps in the fossil record as though they were evidence against evolution. What would be evidence against evolution, very strong evidence of that, animal phyla suddenly appeared in the fossil record. Suddenly, in the sense that in rocks older than the Cambrian, no fossils of these animal groups are known. It obviously wasn't suddenly in the everyday sense of the word, since the period we're talking about is at least 20 million years. It is still quite sudden, and I wrote in the Blind Watchmaker that the Cambrian shows us a substantial example of major animal phyla already in an advanced state of evolution, the very first time they appear. It's as though they were just planted there, without any evolutionary history. Needless to say, this appearance of sudden planting has delighted creationists. That last sentence from the Blind Watchmaker showed that I was smart enough to realize that creationists would like it. I was not, back in 1986, smart enough to realize that they would gleefully quote my lines back at me in their own favor, deliberately omitting my careful words of explanation. Out of curiosity, I recently Googled. It is as though they were just planted there without any evolutionary history, and obtained no fewer than 473 hits. As a crude control test of the hypothesis that the majority of these hits represent creationist quote markings, I tried Googling for comparison the clause that immediately follows the above quotation in the Blind Watchmaker. Evolutionists of all stripes believe, however, that this really does represent a very large gap in the fossil record. I obtained a grand total of 6 hits, compared to the 473 hits for the previous sentence. Creationists really are breathtaking. I've dealt with the Cambrian explosion at length, especially in my book, Unreading the Radio. Here I'll just add one viewpoint, illustrated by the flatworm's catechol wings. This great phylum of worms, including the parasitic flukes and tapeworms, which are very medically important. My favorites are the free-living turbinarian worms, in which there are more than 4,000 species. That's about as numerous as all the mammals put together. Some of these turbinarians are creatures of great beauty. They're common both in water and on land, and presumably have been common for a very long time. So you'd expect them to have left a rich fossil history. But unfortunately, there is none. Apart from a handful of ambiguous trace fossils, not a single fossil flatworm has ever been found. All the flatworms are already in an advanced state of evolution, the very first time they appear. It is as though they were just planted there without any evolutionary history. But in this case, the very first time they appear is not the Cambrian, but today. You see what this means, or at least ought to mean for creationists. Creationists believe that flatworms were created in the same week as all other creatures. They have therefore had exactly the same time in which to fossilize as all other animals. During all the centuries when all those bony or shelly animals were depositing their fossils by the millions, the flatworms must have been living happily alongside them, but without even the slightest trace of their presence in the rocks. What then is so special about gaps in the fossil record, given that the past history of the flatworms is one big gap? Even though the flatworms, by the creationist's own account, have existed for the same length of time. If the gap before the Cambrian explosion is used as evidence that most animals suddenly sprang into existence in the Cambrian, exactly the same logic should be used to prove that the flatworms sprang into existence yesterday. Yet this contradicts the creationist belief that flatworms were created during the same week as everything else. They cannot have it both ways. This argument at a stroke completely and finally destroys the creationist case that the Precambrian gap in the fossil record can be taken as evidence against evolution. Why, on the evolutionary view, are there so few fossils before the Cambrian era? Well, presumably whatever factors apply to the flatworms throughout geological time to this day, those same factors apply to the rest of the animal kingdom before the Cambrian. Probably, most animals before the Cambrian were soft-bodied, like modern flatworms. Probably rather small, like modern turbinarians, just not good fossil material. Then something happened 500 million years ago to allow the evolution of hard, mineralized skeletons, or otherwise to allow them to fossilize freely. An earlier name for gap amphibians. Produce your intermediates. Evolutionists often respond to this challenge from his deniers by throwing them the bones of Archaeopteryx, the famous intermediate between reptiles and birds. This is a mistake. Archaeopteryx is not the answer to a challenge, because there is no challenge worth answering. To put up a single famous fossil, like Archaeopteryx, is to play by the creationist rules. In fact, for a large number of fossils, a good case can be made that every one of them is an intermediate between something and something else. The silliest of all the missing link challenges are of this kind. First, if people came from monkeys via frogs and fish, then why does the fossil record not contain a frog leaf? I've seen an Islamic creationist ask why there are no crocodiles. And second, I'll believe in evolution when I see a monkey give birth to a human baby. This last one makes the same mistake as all the others, plus the additional one of thinking that major evolutionary change happens in the night. Well, of course, monkeys are not descended from frogs. No sane evolutionist ever said they were, nor that ducks are descended from crocodiles or vice versa. Monkeys and frogs share an ancestor who certainly looked nothing like a frog and nothing like a monkey. Maybe he looked a bit like a salamander. We do indeed have salamander-like fossils dating from the right time. But that's not the point. Every one of the billions of species of animals shares an ancestor with every other one. If your understanding of evolution is so confused that you think we should expect to see a froggy and a crocodile, you should also comment sarcastically about the absence of a dog-hippopotamus and an elephant. Indeed, why limit yourself to mammals? Why not an octopod? There's an infinite number of animal names you can string together in that way. Of course, hippopotamuses are not descended from dogs or vice versa. Chimpanzees are not descended from elephants or vice versa. And monkeys are not descended from frogs. No modern species is descended from any other modern species, really like very recent bits. Just as you could find fossils that approximate to the common ancestor of a frog and a monkey, so you can find fossils that approximate to the common ancestor of elephants and chimpanzees. There's a fossil called Eomaya, which lived in the early Cretaceous period, a little more than 100 million years ago. Eomaya looked nothing like a chimpanzee and nothing like an elephant. Vaguely like a shrew, it probably was pretty similar to their common ancestor, with which it was roughly contemporary. But it's obvious that a lot of evolutionary change has taken place along both pathways, from an Eomaya-like ancestor to an elephant descendant, and from the same Eomaya-like ancestor to a chimpanzee descendant. But it's not in any sense an elephant. If it were, it would also have to be a dogatee. Whatever is the common ancestor of a chimpanzee and an elephant is also the common ancestor of a dog and a manatee. The very idea of a dogatee or an elephantee or any other combination is deeply unevolutionary and ridiculous. An equally ludicrous example is to be found in the Muslim apologist Harry Yahyar's enormous, lavishly produced, glossily illustrated, and childishly ignorant book, Atlas of Creation. This book obviously cost a fortune to produce, which makes it all the more astounding as it was distributed free to tens of thousands of people. Despite the enormous sums of money spent on this book, the errors in it have become legion. In the service of illustrating the false claim that most ancient fossils are indistinguishable from their modern counterparts, it shows a sea snake as an eel. In reality, they are so different that they're placed in different classes of vertebrates. It shows a starfish as a brittle star. In reality, different classes of echinoderms. A cephalic annelid worm as a crinoid sea lily, echinoderm. This pair come not just from different phyla, but from different subkingdoms. They could hardly be more distant from each other if they tried, while still both being animals. A man-made fishing reel as a caddisfly. But in addition to these gems of comical bias, the book has a section on missing links, seriously thinks evolutionists would expect to find a transition between two such differing animals as a starfish and a fish. As for the creationist cry of hard believe in evolution when a monkey gives birth to a human baby, once again, humans are not descended from monkeys. We share a common ancestor with monkeys. As it happens, the common ancestor would have looked a lot more like a monkey than a human, and he would indeed probably have called it a monkey if we met him some 25 million years ago. But even though humans evolved from an ancestor that we could sensibly call a monkey, no animal gives birth to an instant new species, or at least not one as different from itself as a human is from a monkey. That isn't what evolution is about. Evolution is not only a gradual process as a matter of fact, it has to be gradual if it is to do any explanatory work. Huge leaps in a single generation, which is what a monkey giving birth to a human would be, are almost as unlikely as divine creation, and are ruled out for the same reason, too statistically improbable. It would be so nice if those who oppose evolution would take a tiny bit of trouble to learn the merest rudiments of what it is they are opposing. We're used to the idea that living creatures seem to be well designed. In some respect, the illusion is a good one. The vertebrate eye at its best, say it have a hawk or a human, is a superb precision instrument capable of feats of fine resolution to rival the best that Zeiss or Nikon have delivered. We know this if only because we're not so Zeiss and Nikon who are wasting their time producing high-resolution images for our eyes to look at. On the other hand, the great 19th century German scientist Hermann von Helmholtz said of the eye, "If an optician tried to sell me an instrument this faulty, I would feel entirely justified in describing the shoddiness of his work in the harshest terms and sending his instrument back with a protest." One reason the eye seems better than Helmholtz judged it to be is that the brain does an amazing job cleaning the images up afterwards, like a sort of ultra-sophisticated automatic Photoshop. As far as optics is concerned, the human eye achieves its Zeiss-Nikon quality only with the fovea, the central part of the retina that we use for reading. When we scan a scene, we move the fovea over different parts, seeing each one